Look, if you feel frustrated, overwhelmed, burnt out, bored, if you feel like you are not getting ahead in life, then the best place to look at is the patterns that are consistently running your life. 80% of Americans feel like they are caught in a hamster wheel, that they are in some kind of version of their own Groundhog Day, and that they are stuck in a routine. By starting to identify what those patterns are, that's when we start to get to be architects of our own life. We get to design how we are responding to situations instead of being at the mercy of patterns that maybe were set up decades ago and no longer serve us. So the best place to start is looking at your patterns. And that's what I want to take you through. In fact, this really simple strategy for starting to understand your patterns. We're going to look at discovering what they are, we're going to decode them, and then we're going to defy them. It's a 3-step strategy, right? So let's start. Very first thing you need to do is just start monitoring your behavior on a day-to-day basis. The best way I've found for doing this is to spend a week writing down what you're doing and what you're feeling while you're doing it. So that might be that you write down and monitor your behaviors throughout the day, your chores, your work, what you're doing for dinner, who you're talking to, who you're interacting with. Just write it all down. This is not a diary, okay? This is like a logbook. This is just factual. Just be objective about it and write down everything that you're doing, and especially what feelings or thoughts are going on for you while you're doing that thing, because most of our patterns are lodged into our emotional landscape in one way or another. In fact, our patterns are set up in a really simple to understand loop. And you may have heard of this before. The loop goes cue, routine, reward. Now, your cue is quite possibly something that you are thinking about. It may be when you feel anxious, that's your cue to react in a certain way, which becomes your routine. And then the reward may be that you feel more in control, okay? Everybody's got these. They make up our day-to-day life. And the first thing you need to do is shine a light on it. So make this little logbook for yourself. Write down, spend a week doing it. Just write down what you're doing throughout the day. 7 o'clock, I get up, I make my coffee, I make my breakfast, I drive to work, whatever it is, and make sure to record who you're with, the conversations you're having, and what that is going on in that emotional landscape, like I say. Now, the second thing you want to do, once you've got all that data, once you've got that information and you've been completely objective about it and you're not judging yourself, then you start to look at where the patterns actually are. Because of course, there's some of this stuff that is going to be out of the ordinary that isn't based on patterns. But when you've got it laid out in front of you, you can start to see, okay, I did this exactly the same way and cued by exactly the same thing on this day and on this day. That's a pattern. And you start just going through your logbook and figuring out where the patterns are. Bring out your highlighters, highlight where the patterns are. And then, and here's where we decode it, you look at what are the positive patterns, what are the negative patterns, and what are the neutral patterns. So a positive pattern is anything that you're doing, any habitual response you have to a situation that is actively moving you forward, aligning to your goals or to who you want to be. That sounds pretty positive to me, right? A negative one is the reverse, the opposite of that. If you are conducting yourself in a certain way, if you have a routine, a pattern that is detracting from where you want to be going in life, or pulling you away from achieving your goals, or stopping you from being the kind of person that you would like to be, that ideal version of yourself, then that is a negative pattern. And then of course we do have neutral patterns, which are just simply about getting something done. And it may be a pattern to brush your teeth every morning. That's a behavior. It's kind of neutral, but do keep an eye on that. Don't be ready to dismiss something as a neutral pattern, because there may be layers underneath that you haven't yet explored. Remember, taking this process, kind of shining a light on your patterns, is going to open up some new ideas about what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. So many of our patterns are hidden from us, probably because we've been doing them for such a long time, and things that used to serve us may not serve us anymore. And then the final step of this process, once you've discovered what those patterns are, and once you've decoded them, worked out whether they are positive, negative, or neutral, is you start to recognize the negative ones as being choices that you are making. And that is a hard thing to realize, perhaps, when we start to realize that we are on a regular basis carrying out certain patterns that are negatively impacting us, that are pulling us away from the things that we actually want to achieve in our life. It's like, okay, but I don't know. I don't even realize until this point. I didn't realize I was doing it. What happens now? Well, the noticing of it starts to diffuse it. I promise you, when you've gone through this process and you've highlighted that there are certain negative patterns that you are conducting on a day-to-day basis, your attention goes to that. And when your attention goes to something, your energy goes to it, and you will start to be able to bring some conscious decision-making to that pattern. But you got to start by recording it all. So look, if you want to have a little breakdown of this strategy that I just worked out, and in fact, even a template for how to make your log so that you can just fill in the blanks, I provided a link below so that you can grab a free download, which will summarize this strategy so that you can start identifying your patterns, work out the negative and the positive ones, start lifting some of those negative ones out of your life. You can grab it, free download, hit the link below. That'll take you to a download page so that you can grab this strategy and start putting it in action today. You don't have to wait for anything. Start making these changes now. And as I say, there's even a template there so that you can just make your logbook happening right away. Grab that on the link below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. You can subscribe to the channel. I've got more tips and tricks coming to you soon. I'll see you later. Bye.